Her Majesty's Finest James Bond has been cinema's most beloved spy since 1962, taking in countless threats to the safety of the world and just as many sexual conquests. It's now got to the stage where any mere mention of Aston Martin, martinis or gadgets immediately conjures his name, or at least his title. 007 is an institution of British cinema, first created in 1953 by Ian Fleming, whose regular releases are the crown jewels of the spy genre, and have managed far more mainstream success besides that. Fleming may have thought it was dreadful, but Dr. No kicked off a cinematic love affair that has generated enough money to make 007 the fourth highest grossing film series of all time. And it all started with that iconic gun barrel sequence, designed by Maurice Binder, who used a real-life gun and a pin camera to achieve it. But how much do any of us truly know Bond? You'd probably be surprised to know that despite there being 24 official movies and 2 unofficial ones over 6 decades, a lot of people don't actually know the first actor who officially played James Bond in a movie. You might think you do, but the real answer may surprise you. Okay, so Daniel Craig may be one of the best Bonds ever, but we know he wasn't the first. Before him came Pierce Brosnan, who saw us through the 90s until Die Another Day ended his run. He was at least an improvement on the fortunes of the late 80s Bond Timothy Dalton, who saw 2 movies in 1987 and 1989 and then bowed out. And before Dalton, the late great Roger Moore played the spy until 1985, but he started in 1973, a full decade after the first. So it wasn't him. Nor was it George Lazenby, the Australian model engaged only for On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
This never happened to the other fella.
Aside from them, David Niven played an ageing Sir James Bond in the 1967 comedy adaptation of Casino Royale, but that followed Dr. No and was unofficial. So unofficial in fact that it included no less than 8 actors credited as James Bond. It gets confusing, but every MI6 agent ended up codenamed James Bond by the end of it. Anyway, not Niven. There's also a red herring here, of course, as Barry Nelson was officially the first screen Bond, thanks to the TV adaptation of Casino Royale a full 7 years before Dr. No was released. But that's not a movie, so guess again. And for the same reason Bob Holness doesn't count either, because he only voiced Bond in the 1958 BBC radio play, and that's definitely not a movie. The logical answer, and the Bond conspicuous by his absence, must be Sean Connery. He was James Bond in Dr. No, the first ever 007 movie after all, so it must be him, right? Well, not quite. Did you get it yet? Well, what if I were to tell you that you've already seen him in this video? We'll give you 5 seconds to try and recall. The reason the answer is a name that you may not have even heard, because the first person to play James Bond in a movie was actually Bob Simmons. He was the stuntman who played Bond in the gun barrel sequence in the opening to Dr. No, or in other words, the very first time James Bond appears on screen in an official movie. He doubled for Sean Connery throughout his Bond appearances and was key to the success of those early fight sequences. Connery didn't even do his own gun barrel sequences for a further 3 movies when Thunderball came out. Talk about lazy.
Hello there folks, what has 4 wheels and flies? The answer is, of course, only a click away. Pop on over to Mindfruit, a brand new channel dedicated to puzzles, riddles, illusions and bite-sized factoids to test your beautiful brain.